Welcome back to my channel. My name is Olive and this video is going to be going through some super simple movements that you can do just to bring some happiness and joy and movement snacks into your hips. So I'm going to kind of be covering about 5 different exercises, all kind of floor based. If you want to have a yoga block or a pillow, please feel free to grab one. But yeah, I just really hope you enjoy and find value out of this. So I will see you sitting down. So bring yourself down into a kneeling position and we're just going to sort of set ourselves up for our first kind of movement. So if you just swivel your legs round to the right hand side, and essentially what you kind of want to bring yourself into is this nice like base. So your left leg is bent, left foot is kind of just above the right knee, and then the right leg is just behind you. So you're kind of creating this nice like equal triangular shape around the legs. Well, let's just move for a start. So take your hands either side of your left knee and you can think about creating some circles, kind of dipping down, depending on how the glutes and the lower body starts to respond to your movement. And then maybe you bring the right hand round even further so you create more of a twist and you can lean in and out of the leg. So all of this is like fairly intuitive. You just move and see how you're feeling. And then maybe we can walk it round in between the knees and like kind of fold forwards a little bit, or again, more circles. And then maybe eventually you take your right hand behind and you can reach your left hand up and just go for like a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a rotation, taking that left hand wherever. Okay, and then to switch sides, all we're going to do is take the hands in front and then swivel the legs and switch them behind you and sit back down. Just readjust the legs if you need. And go through the same thing again. So hands either side of the right knee, create some circles, dip in and out, move forwards and back. Now both hands round behind the right knee, a little bit more of a twist for the spine. And then again, maybe in between both knees, rolling forwards. You can walk your hands further away if it feels good. And then eventually, left hand behind, right hand can reach back and around, whatever feels good here. Cool, so hopefully everything's feeling a little bit more warmed up. We're just going to practice those switches again. So hands in front, switch legs to the left, and then sit down. Hands in front, switch legs to the other side, and then down. Just practice these switches a couple times, get maybe a little bit more comfortable with them. Cool. And then back to the side where the left foot is on top. Now we can do switches in a slightly different way. Hands go behind and we switch to the legs in front of us. So we're all just kind of slowly prepping a little bit more of a dynamic kind of movement, seeing how the hips, the knees and ankles respond to, like I said, this kind of more momentum-based move as opposed to just statically doing it. Because we're going to involve some hip hinging and some lifts in a second. Okay, so come back round to bringing the left foot on top of the right knee again. You're going to take your hands in front of the knees, roll forward, so you lift yourself up, squeeze the glutes, hands can be by your side. Then hinge, hands down to the floor, swivel the legs to the other side, roll forward, see if you can lift up again. And you just start to create this little sequence between the movements. The swivel, the roll forwards, the hip hinge, the lift. You can do it with or without the hands, depending on how things are feeling, how warmed up they are going. Cool. Okay, let's just try one more. And then come back to again, left foot on top of the right knee. The last little way we can add in some stuff is this time, take the left hand behind you, lift the hips up, but right hand reaches up and over the head. And then as you lower all the way back down, swivel the legs to the other side, right hand behind, left hand reaches. And you can just kind of play with them. Create as much of a sweep as you like. Some movement for the hips, some movement for the spine, for the shoulders. And this is a particularly lovely one if you've spent a lot of time sitting down today, particularly for the hip flexors. Cool. So just one more. And then release. Cool. So just bring your feet out in front of you, maybe give them a little shake up. And if anything, hopefully that sequence just elevated your heart rate and your breath as well and got some blood flow moving around the body. So like I said, you can kind of incorporate all those movements together or do them isolated, whatever it is. Okay, next one we're going to move into. Very similar kind of position for the legs. Instead of having the feet sort of touching the thighs, they're going to be separate. So you're going to sit on your butt, take your feet out to a slight angle, so think about 45 degrees. And we're going to drop both knees down to the right hand side. So when you settle in this position, it's called 90-90 legs. Reason being is we have a 90-degree angle in the front leg and the back leg. So just kind of establish that you've got that going on. You're welcome to take your block and maybe have it underneath the right hand for a little bit more extra support, where the chest can kind of slowly face forwards. So this movement that we're going to look at here is for internal and external rotation for the hips, a movement and rotation that we don't often do in our daily life. So we're just going to bring it back in, because if you don't move it, you lose it. So hands either side of the right leg, try to really ground down into the right foot. You're just going to lift that knee off the floor up towards you as high as you're comfortable with, and then back down. And again, just lifting up and lifting down. Now try not to rotate the chest. Try not to lean into it or lean away, because we're just trying to isolate this movement into our right hip, as opposed to using other structures of the body to perhaps like compensate. So just doing this a couple of times, observing what kind of sensations you're feeling from the muscles. Again, it's intuitive, do as many as you like, you can hold. Cool, and then relax. We're going to do the same thing, but this time for the back knee. So ground down through the back foot, lift that knee off the floor. Try to keep, again, shoulders relatively facing forwards, spine into a relatively neutral position. You might get a glute cramp here, that's absolutely fine. Again, go at whatever pace you're happy to go with. Cool, so the first movement we did for the front leg was internal rotation. Now this back leg is going through external rotation. Cool, let's go one more time. And then release. Cool, so hands go behind and we just switch the legs to the other direction. Check in and see the alignment of the legs as well. Take your block, you can have it under your left hand. Sort the shoulders out. And then again, let's go. Let's lift up that left knee up and down. And it's just quite a nice way to bring some super simple sort of lotion into your hip joints. And it's so easy to do at any point during the day as well. Lovely. Again, just taking your time observing what's going on and where. Cool. So let's ground that knee and then look to the back leg and again lift it up and down. You might find that one side is harder than the other. That is totally natural, totally normal, so no worries about that. Just keep breathing. Keep engaging, pressing that back foot to the floor. Ooh, my glutes are waking up. Okay, last one, and down. Lovely. And then hands go behind, let's switch back to the original side, and this time we can just incorporate a forward fold. This forward fold can feel very, very similar to pigeon pose in yoga, which looks like this. But I personally find this one a little bit nicer for the hips. So you're just going to take your hands either side of the right knee, and maybe you just start with a gentle pulse in and out of that front leg. Just pulsing a little bit, seeing how it's responding. And then if you feel comfortable, you can go for a hold. Doesn't matter how deep we are in the position, whether the hands are to the floor, chest to the leg, or we're further away. Again, it's all about listening to your body, observing where it is, and focusing on the breath there. Hold for as long as you want to. But in about 2 breaths, we'll switch to the other side. Okay. And when you're ready again, switch your hands behind. Move to the other side again, check out the legs, check the alignment, hands either side of the left thigh. Just start with this pulsing, this kind of rocking action in and out. See how the joints, how the muscles start to respond. And then if you want to, again, walk the hands away. You can fold down as low as you want to go. It's always, again, keeping a good check on the breath. Just allowing it to flow with ease, with regularity. Cool. Again, hold here as long as you want, but we're going to take 2 more breaths. Cool. And then when you're ready, push yourself all the way back, take your hands behind, and this time we're going to take a straddle position, just a nice little sort of in-between movement. Take hands to your hips and just create some circles. The straddle is as wide as you would like. I kind of tend to aim for, again, about 90 degrees if possible. Change direction with the circles. And if you need to bend the knees, or if you'd like to, go for it. Cool. Okay, so we are going to bring ourselves into like a lizard position now. So draw the legs in, come into tabletop, and you're just going to step that right foot forwards to frame the hands. Push into the hands, lift your back knee off the floor, and you're just going to shuffle it back ever so slightly. So you can just pop it back down, and now instead of the knee being under the hip, the knee is slightly further behind. So keep the hands to the ground, and you're just going to start to bring yourself into some circular movements for the hips. Again, clockwise, anti-clockwise. You can lift up the front toes. You can start to experiment with rocking backwards and forwards. See how that feels. Again, we're just going to move a little bit, wriggle out. You could even take that right hand on top of the right knee and like create circles here. So almost as if like your knee was a spoon in a big pot and you were like stirring it about. Okay, nice. Lovely. So from here, when you're ready, both hands back down to the floor, lift your back knee, and you're just going to scooch in a little bit so that when you push through, we've come back to a lunge position where the hip is directly on top of the knee. So we're just going to keep it simple, hands onto the hips. I just want you to bend in and out of the front leg. A little bit for the ankles and a bit for the hips. Try to keep relatively neutral spine, shoulders on top. So the movement we did before was, again, this idea of like motion is lotion, just so that we were aware of how the hips might feel moving into this little drill here. Feel free, if you wanted to experiment, you can lift the toes or you can lift the heel. You might gather different sensations. Again, this is intuitive, do as many as you like, but we're going to do one more. Then pop it back out, hands back to the floor, return into your tabletop, and then you're going to step that left foot forwards. Lift up the right knee, scooch it back, replace it to the floor, and then find these kind of circles. You can even do the circles with your back knee lifted off the ground. Oh, I personally like it with my knee to the floor. If you have any clicks like that in the knee, it's just air, it should be fine. Cool. Again, remember you can rock backwards and forwards. You can take left hand onto the knee and guide it through some circles. Cool. And then when you are ready, both hands to the inside of the left foot, lift up your back knee and just scooch it in a little bit so that when you replace it and bring your shoulders up, hip is directly on top of that knee. Again, hands to our hips. Let's just bend in and out. You might find that this side is a bit easier. That's fine. Again, rights and lefts always feel a little bit different. It's also just nice to be aware of like where our hips are kind of sitting, whether they're tilted forwards or back, or whether they're neutral. That's why I like to take my hands onto my hips. Remember, you can play around, lift the heel, lift the toes. Let's go one more. And then release. Okay. Bring yourself down into a kneeling position just for a sec. We're going to locate our block and we're just going to go through some hip cars. So the block is to just add a bit of activation into the hamstrings. So you're going to pop yourself back into tabletop and take your block in between your left calf and your left thigh. And you're going to squeeze it inwards. So you're going to try squeeze it, keep it there, so hamstring fires up. Push into the hands and the right toes. You're going to lift the left knee off the floor, bring it forwards to the left wrist, then out to the side into abduction, like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. Then you scoop it behind you so that the knee is facing the back, and then we restart bringing it in. Then out to the side, scoop it behind you, allow it to point behind. So again, forwards to flexion, out to abduction, and round the back into extension. Just go one more time. Keep squeezing the block, nice and controlled, nice controllable circles, and then release down. Release the block out just to the side. Pop the toes to the floor off the left leg, straight behind you, and just rock backwards and forwards. Just a couple of times, just to see how the hamstring feels. And then we're going to do it on the other leg. So when you are ready, plant that left knee to the floor, take the block behind the right hamstring and calf and squeeze it in. I'm going to just rotate so you can still see my leg. So again, I'm squeezing, lift it up, draw it in first of all, out to the side, twist, rotate, bring it all the way behind, and then reset. In, out, around to the back. 2 more, nice and slow. You might get a hamstring cramp. Try to breathe. Rest if you need to. Reset when you're ready. Cool. And all the way back to our starting position. Let the knee come to the floor. Pop the block to the side. Straighten that leg behind you. Land to the toes. And again, rock backwards and forwards. Cool. So our last little drill, it's not really a drill, it's more a nice chilled out stretch we're just going to do, is one that mainly kind of targets the hip flexor muscles. So, into your tabletop position last time, step that right leg forwards, come all the way back up into our low lunge. Start with your hands onto your hips, take an inhale, and just extend your left hand above your head, right hand onto your knee. And then on your next exhale, slowly lean towards the right hand side. So just observing how we feel here. So for some of us, we might want to sort of tuck our hip bones a little bit more inwards if they're rolling forwards. If we tuck them so they come to more neutral, we might feel stronger sensations. Some of us might want to do the opposite of that. Some of us might be happy where they are. So you can play with how your hips are kind of sitting, backwards and forwards. Some of us might want to bend more into the front leg to gather a more stronger kind of sensation. Or some of us might like to lean towards the right hand side. Or maybe you do a combination of all three. Basically just see what feels best for you. Focus on that breath. Let's go one more time. And then slowly come up out of it. Let's swap sides over. Again, coming all the way up, low lunge. So just reach right hand above, left hand to the knee, inhaling. And exhaling here. Seeing what you want to do with the hips. Bending more to the front leg, or maybe even leaning, or a combination of all three. Just wherever you want to take it. Wherever you feel like it's hitting that lovely sweet spot. And when you get there, just focus in on the breath. Observing what's coming up. Okay, one more breath here. And then slowly pushing all the way back out and releasing. And then maybe just come down to seated and just have a little shake. Observe how the hips are feeling now after that short little movement snack. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like more of these kinds of short bursts of activity and movement, let me know, and I will see you next time.